Welcome, we are live this afternoon for some NASCAR 07 Cup Series action on the Mark Martin Revenge Tour season. Today, we have a 500 lap race at the Martinsville Speedway for the running of the DirecTV 500. And yeah, this is going to be a very interesting one to say the least here today. I don't know what's going to come of this race, to be completely honest, other than the fact that we have a good chance to dominate. We don't know exactly how the cautions are going to lay out in this one. We had quite a few cautions at Martinsville, the race here earlier in the season, and we'll see if Mark Martin can get the win. Usually I have speed on these flatter, shorter racetracks, so hence Martinsville Speedway, a perfect track for me, and a chance to lead as many laps as we possibly can. Reason being is because we are in the hunt to try to lead the most laps in a single season in NASCAR history. We have led 3,002 laps on the season total through 28 races. We have 8 races to go, and to get the record, which is 4,343 laps led, that was set back in 1972 by Bobby Allison. So, we've got a ways to go. I think it starts today. I have to lead like 400 plus laps in this race, so got to stay mentally focused throughout the full 500 laps and try to stay on top of pit strategy as much as I possibly can as well. So, yeah, let's get into this. Qualified on the pole, was pretty fast in practice. I think we've got good speed. Green flag is in the air. We're underway at the Paperclip in Martinsville, Virginia, for a little short track racing on a Sunday afternoon. One of many laps led for Mark Martin as he works his way off of turn number 4. Good initial start. We'll see how this is going to all play out. Matthew Dorter Bruno, Ryan Berwick, Easy Network. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Got to make sure I don't hit that curb. That curb really throws the race car around quite a bit. I hit it a couple times in practice. I like the setup of the race car. I mean, it feels glued to the track for the most part, at least early in the run. Hopefully, later in the run, it doesn't get too squirrely when I try to pick the throttle back up. Used to start these at like noon. Yeah, I know. I wish they would do that again. Noon, 1 o'clock. That's the main reason why I do it, honestly. I love the start time. Get a full race in before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Still got the rest of the day. Nowadays, when a NASCAR race is over, it's like race is over anywhere between like 6 and 8 o'clock, and you're like, oh shit, I got to go to work tomorrow. Like that's kind of how it is now. If you live on the East Coast, at least. Martin wrapping the bottom of the racetrack, at least consistently right now. I want to lead all 500. I don't know if that's possible, but I'm going to try it. If we can lead all 500 laps today, that could really help us get to our record. We'd still be, what, a little under 900 laps led away with 7 races to go, but that would eat into that deficit quite a bit. Greg Biffle's keeping up with Mark Martin, though, on pace right now. Martin not pulling away from his teammate. Everybody else is dropping a little bit further back. Jimmy Johnson in 3rd. And the top 3 running just as they qualified in that same order, 1 through 3. Let's see the back of the field faintly off the exit of some of these corners. Avoids rain racing. Avoids rain usually at tracks with no light. Oh, yeah. For sure. For sure. And even if they have lights, it still gets the race done at a more reasonable time if there is some sort of a rain delay. You know, at least you can get the race started sooner. Therefore, you're going to be able to end it sooner if there is rain in the middle of it. And you don't have to worry about getting booted to USA Network for NBC's sake for local news at 6 o'clock in the afternoon if you start the race at noon rather than at 6. Throwing that out there too. Or started at noon. It more than likely won't end at 6. I mean, you'd have to have a few hour rain delay for that race to take 6 hours. Especially nowadays where there's not as many 500-mile races as there used to be. More often than not, races end between 2.5 and 3 hours in length. Sometimes less than 2.5 hours if there aren't many cautions, like on some of those road course races. Get through it with only some of those stage yellows, and I think Watkins Glen last year was like barely over 2 hours. Same for the Indy road course race. I don't know that ratings are that much up starting later, at least for NASCAR, than starting earlier in the afternoon. I wish there was a way to test that theory. Because obviously NASCAR had more, they had higher TV ratings back in the day when they were starting at noon, 1 o'clock. And I know the landscape of, just people with cable and all that has changed. I obviously get that. I figured the only way to find out is to try it. Schedule a couple races a year at noon, 1 o'clock next season. Not saying you have to do it for the entire, East Coast, but do it for a couple, and then you get a good gauge of where you're at on TV ratings. You're not going to take that big of a hit for 1 or 2 weeks. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it. And you might not even end up taking a hit. It might end up flatlining. And if it flatlines, then you might as well move it up. At that point, what's the point of keeping it back? I have no clue what happened in that Tigers game last night. I don't even care that I missed it because I had so much fun at SummerSlam last night that I really don't care if I missed a baseball game. That was the best pay-per-view I've gone to ever, of the 4. It was probably the best wrestling show overall I've ever been to. I've gone to quite a few now. That crowd was hot, like from the time we were waiting to get out of the highway in a traffic jam. Random people just like talking wrestling with their windows down. The walk to the stadium from the parking lot. Yeah, it was a blast. Then everything that transpired during the show, of course, too. So Biffle was hanging around with Mark Martin, and then once Mark Martin hit lap traffic, he started to pull away a little bit. About a 1-second lead between those two Roush Fenway teammates. Kurt Busch at the back of the pack right now in the 2. Almost over 35,000 fans. You talk about at Comerica? That's pretty cool. Glad to see it, most of the way full capacity-wise. I know it was a special occasion, but still just kind of a random regular season game. For a team that isn't really contending for anything, for the most part. Unless something crazy happens. The last match, I mean, it was definitely cool. I kind of figured there was going to be a bunch of run-ins, at some point. it was heavily rumored Roman was coming back, so I kind of had a feeling that all that was going to happen, but it was still cool. Crowd was going nuts. I will say it seemed like the crowd was getting tired for really the first time the entire night when the main event started. Pretty much the first half of the main event after the entrances, you could tell people were kind of just... It was an okay match. You know, the match as a match itself, it wasn't really... I wouldn't put it as like one of the top 3 matches of the night, but obviously the moments that happened in the second half of it definitely helped it. Which honestly, it gave me hope for the match and more excitement for the match in general, knowing that it was going to be a Bloodline Rules, because I know all that kind of stuff was going to end up happening anyway. Who won SummerSlam? Well, I mean, what match specifically? There were 7 matches. .171 car blocking Mark Martin. Martin not able to get a pass made on him. He will get underneath Kyle Petty. Have to fall to 171 by him. So a couple of the bigger contenders in this one, a lap down in these first 30 laps after not qualifying well and starting at the back of the pack. That being Kurt Busch and Dale Jr. I try not to use the bumper too much early in the race, but I might have to get around this guy because he's not giving Mark a lot of room. Well, maybe not. Martin finally gets around him. Once he got underneath him, he finally gave him room. He was able to make a clean pass nevertheless. I mean, I went wire to wire at New Hampshire on a flatter track earlier this season, so... Or, sorry, not New Hampshire, Phoenix. On a flatter track, led all 312 laps of that race from the pole. We do it here. I mean, that's a lot of laps led. Again, I'm trying to get that laps led record. And I don't think I'm going to be able to lead a lot of laps at California tomorrow night. And the only reason I say that is because I finished 23rd there. Didn't have a lot of speed early. I'm going to probably have to save fuel from the start like we did with the Michigan race and not lead a ton of laps and kind of ride in line in the draft until the final, like, 10 laps or so. Then try to strike like we did to get the win on Jeff Gordon. Yeah, I didn't even realize that the Guardians were at home yesterday until we went to leave, and then somebody mentioned that they were at home. There was a ton of traffic on the highway. The game started at like the same time that SummerSlam started. SummerSlam started at 7. I think first pitch was 7:15 for the Guardians last night. Yeah, parking was very... Well, it wasn't like it was tough to find a parking spot because we got there so early. It was just tough to get into a parking spot. Like, it was just tough trying to get off the highway because there were so many cars there. I mean, you had 57,000 people at SummerSlam last night, and I would imagine the baseball game had at least 20 to 30,000, you would imagine. But they're all going to 2 different places within, you know, a mile or so of each other. Whoops. Drove it all the way down to the grass there. Go for downforce, save fuel. I'm going to need downforce there. I feel like my car always handles so terribly at California. I'm definitely not going to have the straightaway speed with doing that too. So, yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to have to do that. Martin just getting underneath Casey Mears. Most of these passes around the lap cars, though, have been pretty clean and efficient. We're 40 laps in. Martin's extended his lead to 2.8 seconds. I would assume Biffle's still in second and Johnson in third, but we don't know that for a fact. Murray going a lap down. Martin just focused on trying to lap as many cars as he can. Up until we potentially get our first yellow. 37,000 I procured. So yeah, I figure with how good they were, I just said 20,000 because I can guarantee that many are probably going to go to a game anyway. Yeah, 37,000 plus the 57,000 at SummerSlam. I have over 90,000 people there. In downtown Cleveland. Granted, most of them go to the baseball game are probably locals anyway, but maybe a little extra, out of town people going to SummerSlam. Just because WWE is more of just a global thing. They travel from city to city. There's the Guardians are from Cleveland. Yeah, they definitely do. As somebody that lives in Ohio, I'd say they have an intense... I think they're sore losers is what they are. Might be a little unbiased, but... I'd say... I wouldn't say that for all Cleveland fans, though. I feel like Cleveland football fans... I feel like Browns fans, like, locally around here, they think they're going to win the Super Bowl, like, every year since they've been at least mediocre. I think we could actually win the division this year. And they fall flat on their face. They had one season that they went to the divisional round of the playoffs in the last, like, however many years that they've been, an all-right team for, what, like 4 or 5 years or so? Pretty much since, like, the COVID year, 2020. And, yeah, like, people at work that are, like, Browns fans, there's quite a few, because, again, I live in Ohio. A lot of sports fans around here are kind of evenly split between Cleveland and Detroit just because I live so close to both cities. Dale Jarrett blowing an engine. Got a little tight there trying to get around him and the lap car that was already to our outside. No real apron for him to get out of the way in the center of the corner, but Jarrett makes his way to pit road. We stay green through 50 laps. Yeah, maybe it's a football fan thing. But I don't see that out of Lions fans. Like, Lions were actually really good last year. I never saw, like, any of their fans getting cocky about anything. I feel like when the Browns are halfway decent, the fans get cocky and they act like they're going to win every single game. Like, I mean, that could just be the people that I see, but it's not like the people I work with now. It's like the people I've worked with everywhere I've worked where there has been Browns fans. Growing up, too. Same thing. I think it's an Ohio thing. That's what it is. But I don't really see that with, like, Guardians fans. And they haven't won, a championship in an extremely long time. I feel like it's mainly just Browns fans. I mean, these are the same people that did the whole, that were part of the whole Bottlegate thing back in the net. Like, that is a Cleveland Browns fan to a T. I feel like that is, even though that was like 20 plus years ago, things haven't changed. I mean, that could be. I would say hockey and football are probably the biggest things when it comes to Detroit sports. Like from just going up there as much as I do, I feel like the city, if they care about sports, it's typically football just because the NFL's so big, and it's hockey because there's so much history with the Red Wings. And although there's history with the Detroit Tigers and even, the Pistons from like the 80s onward, it doesn't have that like reign of dominance that the Red Wings had. I mean, 25 consecutive years of making the playoffs, like that's 25 years that you had a championship contending team. And because it was more in recent years, most other sports, Tigers, for instance, they had a couple different instances, mid to late 2000s, they had a good team. And then they tapered off for a few years. Like, they only had a window where they could have won a title for like 3, maybe 4 years in both of those instances. And then again in the early 2010s, kind of the same thing from like 2011 to 2015 was like their only years that they really had a shot to win the title, and that's it. Like, they had a dynasty with hockey. Ordered Jim Leland glasses and a hat, mustache on eBay. Jeez. Showing your appreciation for his number retirement. Bottlegate was a fault of the NFL. No, it wasn't. I mean, the scenario of it, yeah. But throwing bottles at players and coaches of the opposing team isn't the... Like, that's on the fans. That's just stuff you don't do. Didn't, like, a referee get his head busted open or something like that? From that Bottlegate incident? It's also a reason why they don't sell bottles at stadiums anymore, too. So you can thank Cleveland sports fans for that. Browns fans, excuse me. I had to correlate sports because it is a sport. But trash your Browns fans. If there's any Browns fans watching the stream, I do not apologize. I'll be honest. Trust me, I've lived here my whole life. I know the ins and outs of it. I will say, like, my grandpa's a Browns fan, but he doesn't have more or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm just giving him too much of the benefit of the doubt. I should just go back to taking it for what it is. Yeah, the Bengals aren't like that. Like, they're from Ohio, so it's definitely not like an Ohio thing. I've never seen like Bengals fans like that, and they've been pretty good the last couple of years. They've never won a Super Bowl either. I just feel like Browns fans are super cocky. I mean, I would have expected he was going to throw out the first pitch. Quite normal city. You from Cincinnati? Live in the 530. Oh, okay, I didn't even see that. What did I think of Jelly Roll? I mean, I don't really care for his music too much. I don't listen to country music. So, I mean, it wasn't like a bad performance in the sense that, like, everything sounded good, I guess. Austin Theory got up there on that choke slam, though. I mean, he sold it like he was taking a choke slam from like The Undertaker or Big Show, Kane. Like, he got up there. Kurt Busch is about to go 2 laps down at Martinsville. What is going on here? He's been a race-winning contender for the last several races. Does have a win this season. Pretty early in the year. 72 laps have been led by Mark Martin to start this race. About a 3.5-second lead. You know, dominating the early going of the race, but it's not like I have like a 10-second lead or something like that already. It is legend difficulty still. Past halfway through the fuel run right now also. Not sure exactly how many pit stops we're going to have in this one. I would expect probably around 3 stops. Definitely don't want to have to make a green flag stop if we don't have to, but interesting exactly how this is going to take place. Yeah, I don't really know any of those towns you just mentioned. I might live in Ohio, but because I live a few hours away from Cincinnati, I don't know many of the small towns around there. Like, if I mentioned the small town that I grew up in, like, you would have never heard of it, so I just reference it as Toledo. Because that's a very close, you know, nearby metropolitan area that happens to be close to where I live. But, yeah, you'd have to literally live from around here to know where I live. Like, there's people at my work that don't even know where this is, where that town is, because it's like 35 minutes away from them. And it's like the opposite direction of Toledo, so, you know, it's on I-75 going south. Maybe he gets his number retired, would I go? I mean, I would definitely consider it if I have the availability to go. Like, in the instance, you know, yeah, it just depends. If there's nothing else going on that I would rather go to, or obviously if a NASCAR race isn't going on, I'm streaming, then for sure. Tires are probably even better off here than what they were at Dover. This Martinsville Speedway was actually repaved right as this, I guess, seasonal race would have began. You could see the fresh asphalt, so not a lot of tire wear here on this Martinsville circuit today. I'm not locking the tires up much. I did it a couple times, but conserving them for the most part pretty well. Jeff Burt, Bobby Labonte right in front of us. Don't know if Burton's a lap down or not. I know Labonte's still on the lead lap. We'll take our first field pass of the race. We'll swap back to Jamie McMurray. He's a lap down in 20th. So, again, that shows how many cars have already gone a lap down in this one, and we're only 80 laps in. Higher wear on all short tracks. Well, in this instance, like, in this year of NASCAR at Martinsville, it was a repave, so you can't really do much about that. But in modern era, for sure, they need to find something to help with that. Murray trying the old bump and run on Petty. Got him a little wide off the exit of turn 2. And McMurray makes the pass in 3 and 4. Jimmy Johnson right in front of Jamie McMurray. Big dive to the inside. Somehow got it to stick, flatlining the corner like that and clearing Jimmy Johnson in the process. I don't know if Johnson's in second or third. I think he's in third still. Johnson actually is not in third anymore. I see Jeff Gordon up there. So he might be the third place car now. We'll swap to Greg Biffle in the 16, who still remains in second. And is about 2.5 seconds behind race leader Mark Martin. Martin dealing with a lot more heavier lap traffic now than what he was when we were driving as him. Kyle Busch going to win this year? I still don't think so. I mean, that was my prediction even before the last few races happened. I know he had more speed at Indy because he had a, top 5 car by the end of it. Ended up wrecking, but we haven't seen that consistently yet. Three wide pass there. Only a few lap cars between Greg Biffle and Mark Martin on the racetrack right now. Kurt Busch gets sent into the corner. I mean, I wasn't even trying to do that, but he crowded me so much. It was hard not to make contact. Now Kurt Busch isn't happy with Greg Biffle all of a sudden. He was the one that threw the bad block in the first place. We'll swap to Matt Kenseth now. Haven't seen him yet today, so he's still on the lead lap. 5th place. So top 5 runs so far for Kenseth. Put him in the fence. Put him in the barrels. He's already 2 laps down, too. I don't know why he was doing that to the 2nd place car on the racetrack, but he was. Kenseth in 5th is 12 seconds off the race lead. So, yeah, Johnson would be in 4th then. Where we saw McMurray. There's quite a big gap between where the 17 and the 48 are on the racetrack, which would be the battle for 4th. I'm not sure who's even in 6th behind Kenseth. I didn't notice anybody out of the rearview mirror that could have challenged for position there. Oh, boy. Car turned way too easily getting into the corner there. Speed at Bristol insane to watch? For that short of a track, yeah. They hauled the mail around that place. We'll swap to Mark Martin at the start-finish line next lap. As Mark still holds on to the race lead. Even with Greg Biffle closing in on him. About a 1-second lead for Mark Martin. And we are at lap number 99 right now. Still caution free today. Yeah, no, I did get the message you sent about the. All I saw was a picture there. I didn't get a video though. I don't know. I don't know if I have to go into my settings and adjust, like if I get like videos or something like that I could get sent. But I know I didn't get one at least at that moment. But I did see the picture you sent. Entertaining the past couple streams. Thank you for that. Look forward to your streams. Well, hey man, appreciate it. Glad you. Enjoy it. I have to try to make it as entertaining as I can while still at least doing what I want to do, which is kind of keep a, realistic broadcast going with it. Now, I will say it's not as like serious as it used to be. I'd save that for my live commentary streams now. But I wasn't doing those when I first started the channel too, so. Yeah, trust me, I've watched some 410 sprint cars my entire life. I grew up dirt racing, going to dirt tracks. I've only been to a few World of Outlaw shows, but I've seen a lot of local shows with 410 sprint cars. Yeah, definitely have a lot of speed. Way more horsepower in those things though too than what a NASCAR stock car would have nowadays. That and the cars are lighter too, so they're able to, go faster on dirt than like, a NASCAR stock car when they were at dirt Bristol were way slower. The lap times are like 4 or 5 seconds slower a lap than when they were on concrete. It's because they're not purpose built to race on dirt. And they're heavier. And they're not open wheel either, so that probably has a lot to do with it. Well, Martin's doing his job so far. He's led every lap of this one from the pole. 108 laps led. Quite a few drivers have gone a lap down to this point. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it to lap 150 before I pit. I don't know how many more laps exactly I'll be able to go. We're definitely going to try to push this as long as we possibly can. Because if you have to pit under green in Martinsville when you get a caution, after you make a pit stop and not everything is cycled through, you will get trapped the lap down, especially with Martin only having a 1.4 second lead over Biffle. The lead was as much as about 3.8 seconds was the biggest I had seen it during this run. So the back half of the run, Biffle has definitely closed in on Martin a bit. I still don't plan on making any adjustments, at least for this first stop. Me and Biffle were pretty equal with one another on speed. I just had the track position with qualifying on the pole, and he qualified second. And I'm getting through lap traffic more often than not quicker than he is, which is why we've been able to extend the lead over him and make it at least comfortable enough that he's not breathing down our neck every single lap anymore. His first 20 laps or so before we got to lap traffic, it was like that. Swipe right, it's a video? Yeah, I wouldn't have known that. I'm like not on Instagram at all. I mean, I would love to throw out the first pitch at Comerica. I don't know how I would go about doing that. I haven't done anything special, so... I'm not famous enough, nor have I done anything for the Tigers organization that would grant me, a spot. Something like that. I don't know Tyler Ninja Blevins. I've never heard of that man in my life. Those open wheel guys are a different breed for sure. They definitely are. So if we make it 125 laps, it's going to be a 3-stop race here today. We should easily get to lap 125. We haven't seen anybody hit pit road yet in this race. We're right back out to a nearly 3.5-second lead again, by the way, for Mark Martin. It's kind of a rubber band effect. We've had nearly a 4-second lead. We've had a lead down under a second again. All during this green flag run. Just how heavy is the lap traffic at that point in time that you're having to deal with. And for the most part, they're all being pretty patient in the early going, and Martin's been able to make some easier passes. Car is giving him plenty of room to the bottom as the lappers stay wide. I mean, I'd probably be a little nervous, but I definitely have to, like, if I knew it in advance, I would be throwing a baseball again consistently for a day or two, you know, just playing catch. Because if I went out there without, like, warming up or anything, yeah, like, who knows where that throw's going to go. But you give me some warm-up throws, yeah, I'll do what I need to do. And I will go try hard. I will try to throw that thing as hard as I can. Comerica used to have, like, it'd be like a pitching thing where you can just basically see how fast you throw. And once COVID hit, they took it out. They haven't put it back in. I'm upset about that. Instead of them doing that every single time I went there. They also had like a batting cage, an AI like simulated batting cage kind of thing. Virtual reality, that's what I was trying to think of, not AI. But yeah, virtual reality batting cage. And they took that out also. That was in right field. And the pitching cage, or not cage, but like the net thing or whatever, the pitch tracker, that was in left field. But yeah, they don't have either one of those two anymore. COVID hit, and they were no longer there. Because when I went to a bunch of games in 2019, it was there. So, wish they still had that. But anyway, 2019, I was able to throw like upper 60s. I mean, I'm not like, it's not like fast in the grand scheme of things. I was also really scrawny then, so I don't know like if I could throw faster now, but I also haven't really thrown a ball regularly like I used to at that time, so that might dip the velocity. I'll give you a 60-mile-an-hour fastball, though. It's not a lot, but that's why I'm not a pitcher. Still have not seen anybody hit pit road for a green flag pit stop. Four-and-a-half-second lead, largest of the day for Martin. 129 laps into this caution-free race. Well, it stinks we're not going to lead all 500 laps today because I'm going to more than likely be the first car onto pit road. Just burning a little bit more fuel than everybody else. Now I'm going to have to pit like any lap here. Really hoping we get a caution like right now. But then once I pit, we got to stay green at least until we cycle through. I'm scared we're going to get a caution in the middle of green flag stops. I feel like we have that a lot in these EA games at Martinsville. The lead is not big enough that we will stay on the lead lap with making a stop. If I get to lap 135, I'm going to pit then. Oh, Tony Stewart going to go a lap down here. Kurt Busch is 3 laps down in the 2 car. Just went a 3rd lap down. You get 2 of them back when Martin pits here, but... Well, 1 technically, because Biffle's still not that far back in 2nd. So we're going to stay out this time. We're going to pit at lap 135. Mark Martin really stretching this fuel tank out, but... Oh, no! A little too far. Oh, geez. 1 lap too far. Led the first 134 laps. Got to coast it to pit road all the way around the track. Don't cause caution here. Good thing it's only a half-mile track, but... We'll make it. Biffle to the lead. I mean, I'm not upset with doing that. At least now I know how far I could take it. 4 tires and gas. Made it to pit road. I'm not upset with that. I was really hoping that we were going to get a caution because I don't want to be the first to pit road. I don't think we're going to be able to stay green all the way through this. I just have a bad feeling we're going to get a caution. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to lose a lot of time. I didn't really lose the lead till I was on the back straightaway, so. Heck, depending on how long it's going to be before they pit, I might cycle back to the lead with these fresher tires, but... 17th currently. We are a lap down, obviously. I mean, I was going to be a lap down regardless. Being the first one to pit road. Really hope we stay green. We need to lead a bunch of laps today. We want to get that record. How far the rest of the field could go on fuel. And we went 134 laps, almost entirely 134 because we ran out on the front stretch. Trying to take advantage of these fresh tires if there's a chance to get back into the free pass position at the very least. At least we can get our lap back with the yellow, but I don't know who that car would be, and there's still a ton of lap cars between where Greg Biffle's at on the track and where we see Mark Martin currently. What a contact with Jeff Green through turns 3 and 4. Green was a position. And we've got leaders pitting this time. Johnson's in. And Matt Kenseth's in. Both from the top 5. Biffle's in from the lead. Or at least is on his way in. least I didn't pit way before him, but about 10, 11 laps. It's only about 5 miles at Martinsville. We're back on the lead lap, so if we get a caution, things are going to be okay still. Brian Vickers is going to be able to lead a lap during this green flag pit stop cycling. Martin all over Jeff Gordon's back bumper. Things are getting tight. Cars leaving the pits, cars staying out. Oh my gosh. Gordon into Bush. I was trying to avoid Sterling Marlin. He was pretty slow getting up to speed. It was like he missed a shift. And speaking of getting slow, Kurt Busch is blowing a motor. Having to body slam Jeff Gordon to get to the outside to keep from getting stuck behind Busch. Ryan Vickers still out on the racetrack. Jamie McMurray's currently on pit road for Roush Fenway Racing. This lap traffic's just endless. Ryan Vickers is on pit road finally from the lead. I'd imagine Greg Biffle will be out in front. Mark Martin will be second. No, actually, Martin's going to be the leader when everything cycles through because Ryan Newman just led his first lap of the day, as Newman has not yet hit pit road, so... Martin's going to remain as the race leader. Short pitting those 10 laps. Not intentionally, of course. Makes me think I might have overreacted a little bit when I ran out of gas. That first fuel run, oh boy, 3 wide at Martinsville. A lot of contact. Dave Blaney almost goes for a spin. Vickers was coming out of the pits on the bottom of the track. They were 3 wide. Blaney got pinched into the wall. Tony Raines was in the middle, and they were all kind of hung up on each other simultaneously, but Martin got by the whole pack, and here he is. So Ryan Newman's the last car that has to hit pit road. Mark Martin led the first 134 laps of this race. Obviously much fresher tires than that of the 12. And if Newman doesn't pit this time by, I would assume Mark Martin will end up taking the lead the following lap, whether Newman would pit or not. Well, there's a very... No, not going to go for it here. It's too far back to try to make the move for the lead that time. Oh, a lot of contact. And using the curb, wrapping it. Now clear. So, as soon as Martin took the lead away from Newman, now Newman's going to pit. Up 156. So Mark Martin went about 21 laps there during that green flag pit cycling without leading. Yeah, 21. So 21 laps not led by Martin in this race out of the 158 now. So still can definitely end up leading more than 450 laps in this race, even if we lose the lead during pit cycling one more time. If we have to pit under green, that is. 10.4 second lead for Mark Martin following the green flag pit stops. I can definitely lap the field if it stays green long enough. I think Newman probably will go. Well, no, probably not too down yet, at least. There we go. A little bit of breathing room after we got by Sorensen. It'll take at least a few laps before we catch Jamie McMurray as the next car. I think Jeff Gordon right in front of McMurray as well. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go more than 130 laps just to be safe the rest of the day for fuel. Alternate through the different camera angles for the first time in the race. First of 3 pit stops are in the books. .983, that last lap, fastest of the day for Martin on this second tire stint. Again, we did cycle through green flag pit stops as we have not had a caution here today. Still a lot of racing left, though, at this half-mile short track. Contact with the back of Jeff Gordon. I've hit him a couple times already in this run alone. Have to go 134 more laps to make it a one stop, like from right now. I don't think that's... I mean, even Newman, who ended up going 154 laps on fuel, if he does that twice, he's still going to be about 42 laps short of making it on 2 stops, so... yeah, it's going to be a 3-stop race for everybody in the field here today. Caught Jeff Gordon. Made contact with him a few laps ago. But Jeff is still on the lead lap. It's not by a lot, but he's holding on for now. Basing it on 400 laps. Yeah, the spring Martinsville race nowadays is 400, but still back in the time period where both Martinsville races were 500 laps like this one here. Martin catching Gordon again, driving it in deep. Got it underneath him. Is the pass going to be made this time? Yep, all clear. Jeff Gordon is a lap down at lap 178. As again, we are still green from the start of this race. Gordon lost a spot to Johnson during the pit cycling because I see Jimmy up here, so he's probably in third place now. NASCAR Penske Cup Racing, also welcome to the stream. I forgot to shout you out there in the chat, and Derek Booth also welcome in. Well, this is a race I wish was 400 laps, because this is dominant. I really don't know if we're going to get a caution at this point. We cycled all the way through green flag stops. We really only got close, to seeing one yellow. So I don't know. United States champion. Yeah, I'm glad LA Knight won that one last night. Good chance to get by Jimmy here. Put him a lap down. Oh, a lot of contact with Scott Riggs. Tried to use Riggs as a pick. Still cleared Johnson, but Johnson clips the inside wall into turn one now. And now Riggs goes another lap down off turn two. I hit that curb on the bottom of the tractor 1 and 2 the last time, and I made contact with the 10. It shot me up the hill. Never know about the second half going caution free. I mean, that's very true. We've seen a lot of races just in the last week where we've gone caution free so long at the start of the race that we just start getting yellow after yellow after yellow. So could end up happening again. Races we get about a handful of cautions. They're either all bunched up at the beginning or all bunched up at the end. I think from like just the wrestling aspect of it, I think the best matches last night were. Oh man, I would probably say the Damian Priest and Gunther match, but I really think the Logan Paul and LA Knight match is honestly like right there with it. Just from like the technical wrestling aspect, the wrestling match aspect. I kind of figured that the Rollins and, or I should say the McIntyre Punk match with Rollins as a special guest referee was going to be kind of a screwy match anyway. James Pascal, thanks for tuning in. I know, I wish Dom didn't turn on Rhea too. I'm like Judgment Day. Judgment Day has grown on me so much over the last like year or so. Hate to see it come to an end last night. On multiple occasions. Yeah, I really didn't want Dom to do it. Not for Liv Morgan. How could you leave mommy for Liv? I figured he'd get involved and cost Rhea the match. I didn't know if it was going to be intentional or not, though. Talk about Roman Lowe. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, the crowd was... They were so quiet the first half of that main event, and then the second half, they were getting into it. They were going nuts. I was going nuts. Everybody was going nuts. It was cool when Roman returned, and then like right when his music hit, I was sitting like in the second level seating, and the section like on the floor, like right down in front of me, which was closest to the entrance. Those people were just like jumping. You could just see everybody jumping. Like that's pretty cool. Yeah, Bloodline story definitely needs Roman. Yeah, I mean I knew it was gonna happen. It was still cool though. What more can they do with the Bloodline story? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been calling it since Roman was gone, really through like Money in the Bank. He was gone for a couple months. I didn't know if he was going to be, when exactly he was going to come back. Once we got a couple weeks out for SummerSlam, I'm like, yeah, he's definitely coming back from SummerSlam, especially with Solo dissing him, in his promos off and on about like he's not here anymore and taking out Paul Heyman. I'm like, yeah, Roman's definitely coming back at SummerSlam. But right around like Money in the Bank, I called for a Bloodlines Civil War essentially, but for a War Games match at Survivor Series. I feel like that's what it's going to come to. It's going to be interesting though from a storyline perspective how he gets the Bloodline back together. Like him and Jimmy Uso were, they were always cool all the way. So that won't be very hard, but how is he going to recruit Jay? And I think he's going to recruit Sammy too for the Bloodline Rules match. Or not Bloodline Rules list. Whatever I was talking about. Survivor Series. 4-on-4. War Games. But yeah, I think Sammy and Jay are gonna reunite with Roman and Jimmy. It's gonna be the OG Bloodline against the new Bloodline. I feel like the new Bloodline would win that though, because I would assume The Rock is gonna come back at some point for WrestleMania next year, and I would assume it. Well, I mean, see, that's the thing. That's the only thing with that is he said he wants Cody at some point. So if he still wants Cody, is he going to be a part of the new Bloodline, or is he going to be a part of the old Bloodline? Because that tells me he's going to be a part of the new Bloodline, which would have him feuding with Roman at some point. So we have a Cody and Rock match that, you know, we're guaranteed to get at some point. And you have to expect that they'll probably circle around to Roman versus Rock at some point too. So, like, you know, is it going to be like 3 straight WrestleMania things? Because if that's the case, then this whole, like, new Bloodline versus OG Bloodline, that's going to last for like a year and a half then. At that point, which is probably going to, like, kind of dragging on a little too long. Kind of like the end of the Bloodline situation before The Rock came back. So, yeah, I mean, there's a few different ways they could still kind of go with this. It'll be interesting to see exactly what they pull the trigger with. You know, when The Rock does come back, when is he coming back? You know, is he coming back as Survivor Series with that War Games match? Is he going to help one of the sides win? I mean, it's still quite a ways out from WrestleMania. But that would probably lead into him having, you know, maybe a match at the Rumble with Roman or Cody, and then the other one would be at WrestleMania. Me versus the Bloodline. Me versus Eric Estep. The Battle of the Giants. The NASCAR YouTube Giants. Who's going to be the bad guy, though? I feel like we're both just really nice people. I haven't gotten to, like, talk to Eric. I seen him in the Daytona garage when I was there a couple years ago for the 500 in 2022. It was just kind of a pass-by thing. It wasn't like a... You know, I was talking to him at all. Probably doesn't even know who I am. Like NASCAR and pro wrestling. Yeah, man, that's my life. Danny B. Talks is a huge pro wrestling fan too. He was at SummerSlam the year they were at Nashville 2 years ago, I think. He goes to shows whenever they're in the Nashville area and stuff. About as often as I would, you know, if they come to Toledo or Detroit, you know, Cleveland areas. Yeah, when I did meet Danny B at Nashville Super Speedway a couple years ago, I wish I would have talked wrestling with him. It didn't pop up in my head at the time. We were just kind of talking NASCAR for like 5 minutes, but I should have. If I had a chance to talk to him for a longer period of time, that's what I would have done. But I don't want to take too much of his time. He was there with other people. The other NASCAR YouTube posse. Racing series and wrestling's so awesome, man. Yeah, it's a good combination. There's a lot of overlap, though, too, I've noticed, with NASCAR fans and wrestling fans. There's quite a few, at least of the younger generation, that seem to like both quite a bit, which is cool. Yeah, Stapleton's definitely a huge history buff. The only thing with that is he's like way more of just like an overall car guy than I am. Like I'm a huge racing fan, and I'm sure he is. I'm sure he is too. But he's just like a car guy. I raced growing up, but I wasn't like a car guy by any means. Like I would, help like work on the go-kart, but it's also not like a race car, so it's not anything similar. And I would just do the basic stuff like, like clean the tires off in between like heat races and stuff and change the oil. Few and far between times I'd actually change the gears myself, but yeah, most of it, was my grandpa that was, messing with it. The nights that my dad was there, they would go to work on the rest of the stuff, but I would just basically do like the easier stuff that I knew that I could do without fucking up, essentially, without messing anything up major. I was never touching the engine. Even my grandpa didn't like. He usually didn't mess with the engine. We had like an actual engine guy that we would like, if something was wrong and we needed it overhauled or something, like he would be the one to do it. Like my grandpa wouldn't be one to touch that stuff. Alex Bowman, Bubba Wallace cage match. Yeah, we've had a few years in the making of that rivalry for sure. They don't like each other. Oh yeah, for sure. Bubba's a pretty like he's kind of a stocky guy. I think he looks more athletic than Alex Bowman too, to be completely honest. Bowman kind of seems a little fragile. He's probably nicer, so like that probably hurts him in the fighting game. So yeah, my money would be on Bubba in that one all day. You're not gonna see me in a match with anyone. Gibbs is tough for a little guy. He knows how to throw a punch. I'll give him that. He rocked Sam Mayer one year. My current favorite wrestler is Seth Rollins. He's been my guy ever since I got back into wrestling. I didn't watch it for like I watched it growing up until like around 2010 or so. And then I stopped watching it from like then through about 2018 or so. I picked it back up again and started like really getting into it because when you're a kid, you just don't like understand like the business side now. But my favorite of all time is Triple H, but which was cool to see him last night to start the show because the last couple pay-per-views I've been to, he hasn't like started the show like that before. So yeah, I was happy to see. Get to hear his entrance at least once because I never got to see him wrestle in person before. I didn't start going to shows until I got back into it the second time around. He was only part-timing for like a year and a half to 2 years when I got back into watching wrestling, and that's it. I got to see Rock Cena. I did. Luckily, I've been able to see Cena wrestle in person. Because he's kind of come and went out of the last few years. Well, it was a dark match, so it wasn't like... I've seen him cut promos in person, and the only match I got to see him was in a dark match. But I'm going to count that. It was like right when they came back with fans in 2021, after Money in the Bank, when he showed up and he was challenging Roman. That was the whole segment where Paul Heyman was doing the John Cena, like he was mimicking his entrance. It was that night. But at the end of the night, after SmackDown was over, he had a dark match. It was a tag match between him and, who was it? It's him. It's him and somebody else against, the Usos. I'm trying to think who was feuding with, Roman right before Cena showed up at Money in the Bank. That's who he was tagging with. Having kind of a brain fart as to who that was off the top of my head. Yeah, because I was about to leave. I usually don't stick around for the dark match. And then John Cena's music hit, and I'm like, I gotta stay. I never got to see him wrestle. I'm like, this might be the only time. So, yeah, I'm glad I got to see that. I haven't gotten to see The Rock. Like, I haven't even gotten to see him on TV. I've been going to a bunch of these pay-per-views the last few years, but everyone I go to, he's not there. And then he'll show up on a random episode. Like, I was upset he wasn't even at the Rumble last year, because I was sold that he was going to show up at the Rumble in some capacity, even if he wasn't in, like, the Rumble match or something. Like, he was going to show up at the end of the show. Nothing. And he shows up on SmackDown that next Friday. I was so pissed off. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Still didn't get to see him. And, like, I was holding out just a little hope for last night. Just a little. Because I was like, I know Roman's coming back. I doubt The Rock is coming back. But there's like a 10% chance he could. And he didn't. He wasn't there. His mom was there. So that, like, kind of... It's like, oh, his mom's there. Maybe. Maybe there's like a 10% chance he might show up. Nope. Didn't show up again. I swear if he shows up on SmackDown again this week... for some odd reason he shows up on SmackDown... I'm going to be upset. I'd be like, what the hell? Like, why weren't you there on Saturday? Yeah, it's definitely family friendly. If you go to a Raw or SmackDown, it's more family friendly than a pay-per-view or PLE. And they call it a PLE now. I'm still gonna call it pay-per-view for the end of time. That's what it was for my entire childhood. So, but yeah, like last night was rowdy. Like there's way more adults that go to the pay-per-views. There's still kids there, but it's way more adults. There's way more kids that get taken to like Raws and SmackDowns. I think a lot of it's more affordable. It's way more cheaper to go to a Raw or SmackDown show and get a pretty good seat for it. I mean, I only spent $60 on my ticket last night. I had pretty good seats. I mean, good seats as far as like I was second level, but you could see everything that was happening in the ring, no problem. So I mean, but yeah, there's a lot more adults. It's more rowdy. For sure, like the crowd itself is way more rowdy there than what they are on an everyday Raw or SmackDown. But it's not too vulgar by any means to go to like a pay-per-view. Getting pretty close to having to pit for the second time in this race. Looking at this thing, trying to go potentially caution-free. It is not impossible that this race goes caution-free. We're halfway through at the line this time, and we have not caught a caution. No, I don't really go out of my way to watch AEW. I'll see some stuff, like, I've tried to watch a couple episodes, and, like, more so, like, in the last, like, year. They're nowhere near as hot as what they were, you know, a year plus ago. It's really hard to watch, like, a full AEW show now, because there's so many segments that are just, like, I'm not interested in. I don't even watch, like, Raw or SmackDown live that much anymore. I just keep up with the storylines, so when I'm going to shows and stuff, that obviously I know what's all going on, and you know, and I kind of do the same thing with AEW from time to time with highlights, but yeah, it's hard. I feel like the crowd's just dead at AEW. Like, unless like their like biggest stars are at the forefront of what's going on, like, the crowd is absolutely dead for everything. Like, it is so, like, it's hard. It's hard to watch some stuff there. Pay-per-views are pretty good. Yeah, and there are some storylines that have been good that like, the Edge and Christian stuff is pretty good. I mean, pretty much anything MJF is doing is usually pretty good, too. When Punk was over there, he was having some good feuds. And there's some good stuff that's happened there, but the whole Toni Storm stuff, you know, with that heel turn that happened somewhat recently against her, but yeah, I mean, like, that's good. Like, they have some good stuff, but I feel like with WWE, like, they're so much hotter right now that, you know, if you keep up with that enough and you watch that and then you go to AEW, it's like, you can really tell it's like, oh man, this is kind of, it's just not as fun to watch. Like, and I'm not about, like, tribalism or anything like that by any means. It's just, AEW is just tough to watch right now. It's just like, you know, when WWE was tough to watch 2018, 2019, so when AEW came around and it was hot, it was fresh, you know, it was cool, but now they got like 500 people going to a weekly show, and that has a lot to do with the crowd being dead, is that they're just not getting as much in attendance, so of course the crowd's not going to be as loud as what it is at a WWE show, who get like 10+ thousand every single week for a Raw or SmackDown. Yeah, the guy that owns the Jags is, or the family that owns the Jags, yeah. No, the dog's not with me. Yeah, we are running out of fuel soon. I'm taking a couple more laps. Oh, contact Denny. Well, Martin hasn't lapped the entire field despite this race going caution-free from the start to where we're at right now. Definitely a dominant performance here. Gonna pit this time. I want to run out of gas again. So Mark Martin coming in, 4 tires and a full tank of gas. At lap 262, no adjustments for the second time. I don't watch soccer, so I wouldn't know if that's the case or not. People just throwing together a lot. Yeah, I mean, like when they do actually have storylines, I feel like they're really good, but there's no abundance of them with AEW. At least like with WWE, everybody that's on TV pretty much has a storyline. At least with Raw, like every single thing that's going on there has a storyline and a purpose for why they're there. The only thing with like SmackDown that I can think of that like isn't really much storyline driven is the whole like Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews tag team that kind of came up out of nowhere. Like that's like the only thing going on SmackDown that really I can't think of that's like, why is this even on here? But at least like the other stuff, you know, whether you find it entertaining or not, like there's a purpose for it. But yeah, I feel like with AEW, it's like, oh, tonight we're going to have a match with so-and-so and so-and-so. It's going to be a good match, but it's not really going to lead to anything. So it's hard to kind of get invested behind it. I mean, it is like watching a random indie show when you have no idea what the heck's going on, but there's going to be a match, and it's probably going to be pretty good. I mean, that's really what AEW is. I mean, it's just kind of a glorified indie program. It's a higher tier indie program is what it is. But it does get, you know, wrestlers more recognizable just because they are on television every week, so for that reason, that's the glorified aspect of it. So Mark Martin is on the lead lap. He had a big enough lead that when he ended up having to pit, he only actually fell to third place, about a half a track or so behind the current race leader, Greg Biffle. So Martin's already made 2 stops in this race, and looking at just having to make 1 more. As long as we get to about 130 laps to go in this thing before we pit next, which should easily happen. I mean, that means we're going to have to go barely over 100 laps. One stop and shift into turbo, yeah. Got that fresh tire advantage for the moment. It's good that I have a big enough lead, though, now that if a caution were to come out, at least we're on the lead lap. We'll get a lot more drivers their laps back as well. Hit it a couple laps earlier that run than what I did the run before that. Only went 128 laps on that run. The first one we made it 134 before running out of gas. As long as we made it 125 each run. Yeah, if this goes green to the end, we're definitely going to end up winning this race by a full lap. But we saw at Dover, all it takes is 1 caution, somebody gets a free pass, and we actually have to at least, you know, race the rest of the way. And that happened like pit stops when I hadn't pit yet. The entire field was a lap down. It allowed for Tony Stewart to get his lap back. And ultimately, Kevin Harvick with another caution got his lap back. We had 3 cars finish on the lead lap within about 2.5 seconds of each other. So there is, like, it's not going to be over. All it takes is 1 yellow and 1 driver has a chance. And Greg Biffle's had a pretty good car. He's not getting through lap traffic as quick as Mark Martin, but, you know, when in clean air, he's able to keep up with us for about 20 laps until we get to that lap traffic. So if we get a caution in the final 20 laps of the race, he's only 1 lap down, race is going to be on. And we still kind of need this to stay green the rest of the way for that reason. Michael Turner, thanks for tuning in also. Well, the goal coming into the day, I wanted to lead over 400 laps at the very least. There's a very good chance that that's going to end up happening today. The only laps Mark Martin has not led is during the cycling of green flag pit stops. And as of right now, Martin just passed Elliott Sadler for position. That was a pass for second. There's a chance Martin can actually get to the lead before Greg Biffle ends up hitting pit road. Martin only a couple seconds behind him. Tight getting by Vickers, slight contact. Martin looking low under Biffle off of turn 2. 3 wide to the inside with the 41 lap car up high. Martin goes well low, clears the 16. Lap 283 for the 3rd different time today. Mark Martin is back out in front. Just ran his fastest lap of the day, too, a 19.848. En route to passing Biffle for the race lead. Sorensen gets underneath the 16. Looked like he was going to, I guess not. That party last night. I'm surprised I'm as awake as I am right now. It took me a minute to wake up. I didn't get home until like 3 a.m. in the morning. By the time I got back to my buddy's house that I went with, I had about a 45-minute drive back from his house to get to mine. So we got back to his place about little after 2, and I didn't get home till 3. About quarter after 3 before I went to bed. Which I've mentioned, you know, numerous times before, I am not a night person, so yeah, that was long. I wanted to make sure I caught up on my sleep today, so I slept in until about a quarter after 10 and then got up. Didn't get a full 8 hours of sleep, but I got about 7, so I did what I could with what I had. Oh, look out. Yaley was slowing up pretty early on the back straightaway as he was trying to get to pit road. That wasn't nearly as close of a call as what it was at Dover yesterday in the last 10 laps when Sterling Marlin was on the bottom of the track, blew an engine, almost piled into the back of him while leading. That would have been a terrible way to lose a race. For lunch, I don't know. I might go to Subway after this stream. I haven't eaten lunch today. I still got to work out yet today. Like I said, I slept in, so By the time I woke up and ate breakfast, I wasn't going to have enough time to work out before I streamed at noon, so kind of sucks that I still have to do that yet. I'm usually one for trying to get it out in the morning and not have to worry about it the rest of the day, but now I got to worry about it the rest of the day, so. I still got to eat lunch after this yet, too, so it's probably not going to be till like 4:30, 5 o'clock before I end up actually working out. Food at SummerSlam? I just had chicken wings and fries. I mean, it is what it is. Stadium food. I mean, it was good, but I dropped like half of my fries on the floor. So I have a championship replica title. I always bring with me when I go to wrestling shows. So I had that, and when I went to sit down, it fell off my shoulder. Like the strap that goes over my shoulder, it like kind of like went down, and because the thing is like 10 pounds, it like knocked my food basically out of my hands. I caught most of it in my lap, luckily, because I kid you not, if I didn't catch it in my lap, I would have had like a couple fries and 2 chicken wings left. But the rest of it I caught in my lap, and luckily they were hand tossed, so I didn't get like any sauce all over my shorts. That would have been just a terrible situation. But yeah, that stunk. If that happened. Yeah, literally half my fries were on the floor below me. I wasn't gonna pick them up and eat them. That is an outdoor stadium. Even if it was an indoor stadium, I still wouldn't have done that. You know how many people were probably walking through the row, and who knows what they were stepping on with their shoe. Yeah, that's a huge no-no. No 5-second rule for me. Yeah, there was yeah, so I knocked half the fries off of my. I saved all the chicken wings, luckily. I had fast enough reflexes to close my legs immediately for some reason. I don't know how I had the wherewithal to do that. Well, 300 laps in. And again, still caution-free at the Martinsville Speedway. Mark Martin's got a 1-lap lead on the field. And Elliott Sadler, who was in 3rd place, is not that far in front of us. Kenseth's 4th more than likely here. And they're both about to go 2 laps down. Traffic leaving the stadium was not bad at all for me. We parked so far away. It was like a half-hour walk to get to where we parked. So by the time we walked all the way out there, we pretty much bypassed any of the traffic. Like if we would have been parked closer to the stadium, yeah, it would have taken a long time to get out of there. But that's what I usually try to do when I go to these bigger events. I don't mind walking a half hour to get to the stadium, honestly. Like, the only way I would not do it is if it was raining or if it was... Which, granted, it was an outdoor show, so if it was raining, then we wouldn't have even had the show anyway. We would have gotten wet anyway. So if it's like an indoor event and it's like brutally cold outside, because the winters, you know, up here in the Midwest could get, especially in Cleveland, you know, on the lake, or... You know, in Detroit, just being further up north. You know, if it was like middle of winter, yeah, I don't want to park like too far away, but any event I go to when it's like 40 degrees or above easily, yeah, I'm going to be parking and walking. You save money, like $60 to park close to the stadium, or you can find places that are like 10, 20 bucks further away. You walk. It's nice outside. And you don't have to deal with the congested traffic when you leave. You just get out and leave. You're saving money and you're saving time. Traffic getting in is still going to be tough just because it's backed up for so much, and especially with them having a baseball game too. The Guardians on top of SummerSlam last night. Yeah, traffic was definitely congested in Cleveland getting in, but you'll have that. You know, that's why you try to leave early, and we got there like 2.5 hours early. It was still congested, so yeah, you save on parking. So that's my key. If you can walk, you know, a half hour, 20 minutes before or after, it's not bad at all. Time to pit. I mean, we're going to go right around 130 laps again. The fuel window isn't going to open until lap 370-ish for us. I mean, I only went 128 laps last run. I would like to get to lap 375 before I have to pit again, ideally. And we should be able to do that. Honestly, I think we can make it close to about lap 400 before we end up having to pit, but at least lap 375, and then we'll be able to make it on fuel to the end, no problem. I'll be at least a few laps to the good. We'll take our final field pass of the race. We'll swap back to Matt Kenseth, who is in 7th place right now, and he is 3 laps down. So he wasn't in 4th, 2 down. He's in 7th, 3 down. Still top 10. I mean, nobody's going to be beating Martin for this championship. There's 7 races to go after this, honestly. We might be very close to clinching the title after this race, let alone tomorrow night at California. And as long as we mathematically have a chance to try to get the record for the most laps led in a single season, we're going to keep this season going. At least until we break that record. $5 and then take the ferry? Now, I don't know. The only thing with that is if you have quite a few people taking the ferry, you might not get on the ferry quick, so you might take more time getting back to your vehicle anyway. So I don't know about that. I don't have any experience doing that. Same thing if you were to, like, be in, like, Chicago and take the train or something, but New York to a baseball game. But if you're, like, in a walking distance, and your walking distance is elongated to and from the stadium, but you can save on parking, and the traffic, again, getting out of there is not anywhere near as bad. Like, I literally, like, we got out and we left right away. And there was a lot of people there, but I mean, at least by that time the baseball game was done too, so that probably also helped, but experience from, you know, a lot of that. It's a little harder to gauge that, though, with, like, a NASCAR race, because with NASCAR, there's, like, only, like, 1 or 2 specific parking lots outside the track, usually. Maybe a few more than that, but for the most part, they're just a couple gigantic lots, and that's it. So it's going to be a pain leaving, you know, a NASCAR race more often than not. With, like, other sporting events where you just have so many different, like, parking lots, parking garage options. Yeah, that's definitely my advice for the way to go. Oh, my gosh. Thought we were going to get a caution there. I wasn't even driving as McMurray yet. He got clipped in the left rear by that 171 car. Guy hit the curb and then hit me. And he hit the curb again. And now he just went wide. He didn't hit the curb that time. Tony Stewart's going to get under him. McMurray in 15th, make that 14th now as he passes J.J. Yaley. And Jamie Mack is also 3 laps down. On the 13th, getting by Jeff Burt. Any funny dog stories? Not at the top of my head. They're not like... They're not really like my dogs, so I don't like... If nobody else is here, I take care of them. But I don't really like do anything else with them directly, so like I'm not around them a lot. I'm trying to think of just like funny mannerisms that... Like the biggest bulldog that lives here, she just gets like frustrated now that she's older. And with the littlest one, like likes to chew on the ankles of the bigger one. So we have to like keep them separated every now and then. One's in one room, one's in another, and there's this door that literally we have to keep bungeed shut because, like a French door that we have to keep bungeed shut because she'll just start banging on it with her paw and like brute force to try to open the door because she knows she can open it that way. So now the door doesn't want to like latch tightly anymore because she's basically loosened it. I guess that's kind of funny. And Keegan versus the Bulldog. Yeah, there's 3 of them. They're all different kinds too. Like none of them look identical to one another. Go one more lap with McMurray, then we'll transfer to Greg Biffle. All right, so Biffle's still in second, 1 lap down. Again, if a caution were to come out in this one, he would get the free pass. If Mark Martin's able to lap him a second time, though, then Biffle would only be able to get 1 of his 2 laps back with 1 yellow. It would be a lot harder for him to get back into this race. He would need multiple cautions to get back on the lead lap. But we still have about 175 to go. A little less than that now, but there is still a lot of time to see a caution. Just imagine if we get a caution-free race at Martinsville of all tracks. I mean, this... We had quite a few yellows here the first time we raced here, and now this race is just polar opposite. One of the more intense battles in NASCAR history. If we're talking like point standings, that Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart won in 2011. Like Tony, I've never seen Tony Stewart that motivated. Like he didn't really think it was possible to win the championship. Then we got like 5 races out, and he's like, "I'm gonna win this championship," and he went out and he won it. So if we're talking about like intense, and Edwards was still finishing really well. Like Tony had to win those races. I mean, he won 5 of the last 10. It's crazy. That's probably the most intense championship battle, I think, of all time. Like, yeah, you could argue 92 was closer, even though technically 11 was closer by way of points, but it was a chase format. But the intensity, I think, of 2011 was ratcheted up. Like, not that the 2 drivers didn't like each other. They had to find respect for each other's driving talents, but it was just intense competition. And clean racing nonetheless with the intense competition at its finest. So that was probably intense, more intense than like anything else I've seen. As far as like battles for the win from intensity standpoint, I think you got to look at Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch in the 2003 Darlington race. I think that's about as intense as it can get for at least modern era. Just two drivers absolutely on the edge of control. Locking the brakes, keep it off the 178 car in front of me. We'll swap the Martin at the line this time by, but yeah, all right. It's going to be tough to lap Greg Biffle a second time in this race, but it's not impossible. On 337. Oh, man, I thought we were going to get a yellow there. That was close. It's just going so slow in the corners that I just didn't check up in time and about turned the 126 in the left rear. Definitely got up against the wall, too. I'm surprised that wasn't a caution. There was one other time I had seen a bunch of smoke. I think it was in 3 and 4 at one point earlier in the race, but there was no caution for whatever happened there. And then obviously the 3 wide contact we saw pretty early in this race, really, just after the first green flag pit stops. And there was 3 wide between Brian Vickers, Dave Blaney, and Tony Raines. They all got hung up on each other. And Raines got sandwiched between the 2 cars, middle of the backstretch, but they're able to make their way into turn 3 without wrecking. Yeah, I'm not going to try to tackle a bull. I'd probably lose against a mechanical bull, let alone a real one. I mean, I feel like tackling a horse would probably be the easiest. Oh my gosh. All over the place right now. I just about turned myself off Truex. Yeah, not a bear either. Horse would still probably end up mule kicking me, but at least, like, I wouldn't have to worry about him trying to... Well, I guess a bull wouldn't try to eat me, but those horns... Oh, caution! Trouble right in front of us. Turns 3 and 4. Somebody got up against the wall and was sitting backwards. Joe Nemechek. Yep. Joe Nemechek gets loose, springs out her first caution of the day after over 300 plus laps of racing. I think we're still outside the fuel window. So Greg Biffle's going to be back on the lead lap now. He's going to be at the tail end of the longest line on the restart, it looks like, but green flag back in the air. Well, trying to find a way to get back down to the bottom of the... Martin rather, trying to find a way to get back to the bottom of the racetrack. Had a hole behind Ken's that didn't go for it. Just slammed the door shut on Brian Vickers. He's got a whole long line of cars to pass to try to get back to Mark Martin. He's 8 seconds off the lead as a result of it. Not opposed to cats, but I've always been more of a dog person. We had a cat growing up. Named it Newman. After Ryan Newman had a Ryan Newman collar too. Cat was vicious. It did not like people, including all of us. It would try to break into my room in the middle of the night, climb under my blanket, and start biting my feet like on a consistent basis. Like it was like a couple time a week situation. I was like terrified. I wasn't like terrified of the cat like in general, but like just sleeping in the middle of the night, it would just be trying to bite my feet. I'd be tired. I'd be like, please just don't. Like I got to the point, I kid you not, so my door was closed and it would somehow find a way to open it. It would just bang its head against it until it opened the door. So I started putting I had like an office chair and a desk in my room when I was a little kid. And I didn't want it breaking into my room anymore, so I'd put the office chair like under the doorknob. Very dangerous if we had a house fire. But trying to put it under the doorknob to try to keep the cat from getting in, and it would still break in. It would still break in, and it would go straight for my feet, like every time. I don't know why he didn't like me. My sister was the one that would tick it off all the time, not me. I was always, I don't know, trying to assert his dominance or something. My sister would be throwing it down the stairs. I'm not kidding. She would throw the cat down the stairs. I don't know why it hated me. I was always nice to the cat. Cat was a bitch. She deserved it, not me. My dad would probably end up deserving it too. I remember. I don't want to mention it. It would be pretty bad. But yeah, I can remember my sister throwing the cat down the stairs on multiple occasions. I'd be like, what are you doing? Is that right? You can argue that that was provoking its ferociousness. I wouldn't be opposed to that, thinking process, but yeah, that cat was definitely ferocious. Loves attacking my legs. Maybe it's just a cat thing to just attack human legs. But it was only when I was sleeping. And it's probably because he knew that was the only chance he had to be able to do it. I'd be in deep sleep and I'd wake up to a cat biting my foot. And it hurt. Like, it wasn't like it was it wasn't like it was like just nibbling. Like, it was just, I think he was trying to eat my foot. I've always heard that cats, if their owner dies, they'll try to take over for their they don't have a food supply, so they'll just start eating their owner. I heard that they would do that. We fed our cat regularly, so he couldn't have possibly been starving. And maybe he thought I was dead, so he just tried to start eating me, and he would start with the feet. Maybe that's what it was. Why would he go after me, though? That's the next question. I was upstairs. His, kennel and all that stuff was downstairs. The litter box was downstairs. So furniture was downstairs. Why was he going upstairs to try to attack me on my door and not, downstairs where my parents slept or something? Or my sister upstairs who would throw it down the steps when she was a little kid. She was like 5 years old or less when she was throwing it downstairs. I don't want to act like she was 12, 13 years old throwing a cat down the stairs. She was really, she didn't even know what was going on, I don't think, but she would throw the cat down the stairs. I think she thought it was fun. Luckily, the cat never got seriously injured. It's probably why she didn't go after... the cat didn't go after my sister. It's probably because she was scared of my sister. If I go after her, she's going to throw me down the stairs. This little kid. The boy, he's not gonna throw me down the stairs. I would probably get away with biting his legs. It's probably what it was. He was too nice. Yeah, he didn't have any claws, so he couldn't scratch anything. So that's why he would bite all the time. He couldn't scratch. He'd give you his fangs. Bart with about a 12-second lead over Greg Biffle. Again, Biffle got the free pass with the one and only caution we had just after lap 330. Joe Nemechek went for a spin. Car slipped out from underneath him in the middle of turns 3 and 4. It's our only caution of the race, so that is why we only have 2 cars on the lead lap. So now Martin trying to get back to Biffle, put him a lap down again in case we get a second yellow, so we have the similar situation that we have right now. We are getting close to the final pit stop of the day. Now, nobody pitted during that one yellow because they were outside the fuel window to make it to the end of the race. And put a cougar in my car like Ricky Bobby had happen to him. It's been a long race, by the way. To only have 1 caution in this thing, this is just a lot of consecutive laps around a low-speed short track. Definitely in the fuel window to make it to the end from here, so if we did see a second caution, I would be hitting pit road then. If we don't obviously end up pitting under green. Problem was getting another car in the lead lap. We could go a lap down pitting before Biffle, and obviously we're going to have to pit before him because we've been the first car to pit road during every pit stop cycling so far, the first 2, which happened under green during that long green flag run that began the race. Really thought this was going to be our 3rd caution-free race of the season. Just goes to show, though, 500 laps. Yeah, Martinsville was going to be tough to go caution-free. I had a tiger in my room while I was doing live commentary. I don't think that'd be YouTube friendly. I think YouTube would be happy about a tiger mauling me live on their platform. Whether I survived or not. Especially if I didn't. It's more than likely I wouldn't even be able to defend myself. What the hell am I supposed to do? Not gonna be able to chuck them out the window. Good luck with that. These things are still heavy. It's not like it's just dead weight either. It's gonna be moving the entire time. I'd be like throwing anything I possibly could at it. Probably start with the TV. Try to flip my mattress upside down. I'd go down fighting, but I'd probably still go down pretty easily. I don't even know where we get a lion or a tiger from. When to repit? I'm just going to run this out as long as I can. I'm probably going to be able to make it pretty close to lap 400. I kind of assumed was going to be the case. I think there's a very good chance that, I mean, if we cycle all the way through green flag stops knowing that I have to short pit before Greg Biffle, I think there's a very good chance that we can end up lapping him by the time he ends up coming out of pit road for his last stop. And we're right back to the same advantage that we had before. Our next stream is going to be at the California Speedway on NASCAR 07. It will be tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern. So 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night, a 500-mile race at California, the old Auto Club Speedway. I'm not going to make it all the way to lap 400, excuse me, without pitting. Will it be an Auto Club in 2025? I hope so. I hope that short track's ready. I feel like if it is, it's going to have to be at the end of the season. Sounds like they've been behind on construction on that place since they started. 19.805 that last time. Fastest lap of the race for Mark. About a 15-second lead for Martin. Just going to pit this time. Tony Stewart was blocking the heck out of me. It was going to be a tough pass, so we'll pit now. I was going to have to pit within a lap or two anyway. 4 tires, full tank of gas here. Sunoco race fuel. No adjustments. Should be on the lead lap, I think, before Biffle ends up pitting. Really want this to stay green. Whether we're on the lead lap or a lap down. Yeah, definitely on the lead lap still. Second place for Mark Martin. I'll try to gain ground now on these fresher tires. Try to increase that lead even more for when Biffle pits. Like the crew chief there. Lap 400, this is a long race. Yes, it is. You don't have to remind me twice. That's the last thing you want to hear as a driver. Lap 400, this is a long race. Like, yeah, buddy. Thanks for reminding me again. Still got 100 laps to go. Yeah, I mean, Fontana was a great racetrack. I wish it would have stayed like it was. But I also understand, though, too, like, the infrastructure for NASCAR to go to, like, another short track, there really isn't many available. Like, Iowa, which they now are going to host, like, a cup event. There really isn't another short track around the country that NASCAR doesn't already race at that could sustain having NASCAR go there. So if they were going to get another short track, it would have to be where there's already a intermediate track there, and Fontana being the next to be repaved. Probably what led to that decision. 19.769. That last lap for Martin. Oh my gosh, I clipped the inside wall and I clipped the outside wall right after. The curb hooked me to the left. Dang it, I did it again. Like on top of the curb, and then it pulls me in rather than pushes me out. Usually it pushes the car up the track and now pulls it down the track, but pulled it down the track like 2 laps in a row. I don't know how Bowman Gray's going to end up working with that. I really don't think... I don't know. The track is so tight. For one, it's an exhibition race. So that is really about the only reason why NASCAR could pull that off, is because it's an exhibition race. The track's just not big enough to be able to host a points race. And it hasn't been confirmed yet either, so we don't even know that that is 100% true. I know it's been heavily rumored. LA Coliseum, obviously a tight racetrack too. But because it's in a football stadium, they have obviously way more seats available. They could easily get 30 to 40,000 people there in a place that seats like well over 70,000. I think 1 hour for the race is over? No. It'll be less than an hour from now. It's been about a little under 2.5 hours to get to where we're at this point. I don't know if we're going to hit the 3-hour mark on this race or not. That'll be close. 87 laps to go. And Greg Biffle leading at Martinsville. Mark Martin in second. Still waiting on the rest of the leaders to pit one more time in this one. Mark Martin is good on fuel to the end. He's already made his last stop. So taking a huge advantage with pitting when he did. I think it'd be cool to have him have a race in Lambeau Field. The only problem with that is I don't know what time of the year. Like, it'd have to be during the summer, obviously, to do that. You bet I'd be there. Definitely would be able to do it in February for the Clash, I'll tell you that much. Unless they want to do it while it's like negative 20 degrees outside. I will do that one more time at some point in this race. Try to get back to the lead here first. Greg Biffle not that much further ahead. Martin was about 10 seconds behind Biffle when he first came out of the pits, but on over 100 lap fresher tires, he is definitely running him down quickly. It's even with a couple mistakes he's made on several laps. Martin trying to go for yet another win on the season. Might have over a 1,000 point lead over Jimmy Johnson exiting this race today. Martin to the inside of Biffle for the lead. First chance he had a chance to make the pass on him, he did, and passed him cleanly. 80 laps to go. And now the fourth different time Mark Martin has led here today at Martinsville. So Martin trying to win at Martinsville. It'd be the 17th win of the season. So we try to get that race for 20 wins. I'd like to think we should be able to get there. Should. Oh boy. In contact with Dave Blaney. Should lead the rest of the laps. I would like to think so. We're definitely going to lead over 400. I don't think I'm going to get to 450 laps led. I feel like there's quite a few laps in there I didn't lead with the pit stop cycling. It was usually about 20 laps at a time for the 3 times that I wasn't leading in the race. Less than 20 laps, obviously, in the last 2 runs. It was 21 exact in the initial run at the beginning before we cycled back to the lead. See a dome race? I can't imagine how loud that would be with these NASCAR Cup cars, especially with the dual exhaust now. Man, it would be loud. I mean, the Chili Bowl's race at a dome. I would like to go down to that at some point in time. Tulsa, Oklahoma. I think it'd be a cool, neat venue. Yeah, as far as like dirt races, I have to see. It'd be the Chili Bowl and the Knoxville Nationals are 2 races that I really want to get to at some point in time. I was able to see the Kings Royal finally a couple years ago. Props to doing 500 laps. Yeah, we got 70 to go. Still here. It is not easy. Not easy on the mental strength more than anything. At least it's not overly hot in my room today, so I mean I'll take that. That would be really frustrating if it was. I really want to know how the next season with Dave Blaney is going to go, because he does not have a competitive car in this game. We are not going to be very quick. I just shot Joe Nemechek ahead of J.B. McMurray. Quite a few cars headed to pit road. Greg Biffle from 2nd place is on pit road currently. Martin should come out a full lap ahead of him. Yeah, 1 lap lead on the field already for the 6. Kenseth's on pit road. .64 laps left at the line for Martin.
Don't worry about a block from him. He's feeling nice today. Looks like some of the leaders are headed down pit road.
Alternate through the different camera angles for the final time in this race.
Getting a little more cushion than usual from him. Whatever he needs, clearly.
Yeah, I have no clue exactly what the grades are, especially on specific types of racetracks for Dave Blaney in this game. Mark Martin's got an A or an A+ car everywhere we go, which is why we're, a threat to win pretty much everywhere. We're leading as many laps as we have so far this season. Martin under Johnson, Kyle Busch. Sails it in there on Tony Raines as well. Our other teammate, Jamie McMurray, on pit road. He's the last of the 4 Roush cars that had to pit. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really have much of anything else to say about this race. I just wanted it to be over at this point. We've done 500 lap races before. It's just we have not had much action in this one. One caution kind of spiced things up there for a little bit. I don't even know that it spiced things up. I mean, Biffle got the free pass, got back in the lead lap. The thought of things potentially spicing up was there, but that was about it. Now he's a lap down again, so it's probably going to take 2 cautions for him to have a chance to get back into this race. One to get the free pass and one to leapfrog all the lap traffic and line up right with Mark Martin. Considering we've only had 1 caution the whole day to this point, through 447 laps, really leads me to believe that, sure, we may see 1 more yellow, but are we going to see 2 or more? Highly doubt it. Yeah, just a single car spin from Joe Nemechek, though. Nobody around him, nobody touched him. Car just kind of got loose, slipped out from underneath him. He backed it up into the wall. $50 to go this time by. It's about as clean of a Martinsville race as I've had, too. I mean, sure, yeah, I made contact with cars here and there. You're going to. It's tough to do that on a non-short track with a... So I just hit the wall there. It's hard to do that on a non-short track with a video game, but on a short track, you're definitely going to be making contact. And I feel like I'm definitely doing about as good of a job as I can to mitigate that. Thinking about going to NASCAR races in the future? Yeah, you definitely should if you get a chance. Yeah, I'll have the stream schedule for this week posted. I'll try to get something out later tonight. If I don't get it out tonight, then I'll have it out in the morning tomorrow. I'm going to go into NASCAR South Boston. I mean, if they have some sort of a race, maybe. If it isn't a Cup Series race, I wouldn't go there. After going to the All-Star race in 2020, though, I I don't know that I'm going to go to an exhibition race again. The only one that piqued my interest to go was North Wilkesboro last season. I do want to get back to North Wilkesboro at some time. I really hope they get a points race. If for some reason they don't, and they only get the All-Star race, I definitely need to make sure I get there. But they're so quick. The races are not long. Like what, this year's All-Star race was less than 2 hours. It was about 90 minutes when I was at Bristol for the All-Star race. Like, they're just so short. And yeah, you have the Open before that also. So combined racing is about 2 to 2.5 hours. But it's half the field on the track at once. It is weird. It is not like a normal NASCAR race for sure. Yeah, it's too short of an event. Especially to travel for. Like, maybe if they had something more locally to me, I probably would still go for an exhibition race, but I'm not going to travel to one again. I thought about going to the Clash a couple times at the Coliseum, too, but just because it's fresh, it's new, it piques my interest, but I'm like, man, I know if I'm going to go, I'm going to walk out there saying, well, that was quick, because I did it once before. I know every year when those races come around on TV, I say the same thing. So being there in person, I want to at least get a full race, you know, get my money's worth. I feel like at the very least they should be cheaper tickets. Like, wouldn't you think it'd be a cheaper ticket to go to a race that's much shorter? Next race I could clinch the championship. Yeah, there's a very good chance of that. I honestly probably could have clinched tonight if Jimmy Johnson had another DNF. Well, him and Biffle, because Biffle's only like 50 points behind him. Biffle in second right now. So definitely not going to clinch the title tonight. But there's a very good chance we can clinch the championship tomorrow at the California Speedway. Again, if I have a chance to break the record for the most laps led in a single season, we're going to continue the season at least until I break that record. I don't pay enough attention to like Formula One news, so I have no clue about any of that. If they are going to do it or they aren't going to race in Chicago. Go like this, could keep that up. Yeah, I do think we get that lap sled record. Bristol's going to be the big decider on whether I get that or not. Like, I'm going to have another performance like this at Bristol to give myself a good chance. 7 races is not a lot of time to lead about 900 laps. But with that race being 500, I mean, you think about it, even including this race, final 8 races, I would have had to lead about 1,300, 1,400 laps. But because I had 2 500-mile races, or 500-lap races in there, that's what's made this doable. And I knew I led a couple hundred laps at both Martinsville and Bristol earlier this season. I had to make sure I qualified well, so we had that track position from the start. Did exactly that. Greg Biffle not that far in front of us. He's in danger of going 2 laps down here. .33 to go at the line. So if Biffle gets a caution to get back into this race today, it's going to happen before he goes 2 laps down. Because if the caution comes out while he's 1 lap down, he can get back on the lead lap. With 2 down, he would need 2 yellows to get back on the lead lap with 2 free passes. And we're running out of laps, just 32 to go, and we've only had one caution all day. There's a lot of lap traffic right in front of the 16. I don't think he's going to be going anywhere. I knew if it went caution free, I could win by 1 lap. I might win by 2 laps. Pace is there to do it. Plenty of laps to get by Biffle with him not being that far in front of me. I'm going to try to make this pass as soon as he can when he gets a chance. Again, really wants it to stay green to the finish. Martin going to try to dive under Biffle using Denny Hamlin as a pick in 3 and 4. Little bounce off the curb by the 6. Little contact. But Martin is clear. Clear off turn 2. So Mark Martin has now lapped the field twice after getting by his teammate Greg Biffle. Body slam with Denny Hamlin there in the middle of 3 and 4 as well. Yeah, NASCAR is going to be doing the soft tires at Richmond. They're actually going to give each team multiple sets of soft and hards that they can use during the course of the race. They're not going to mandate that you have to use a specific set, though, I don't think. I doubt that they're going to do that for a points race, but they will have the option for both in the race. Well, they're not going to mandate that you can use them both, but I think they're only giving enough sets of both. So you might, if you run out of one of them, you're going to have to throw the other on at some point. If that makes any sense. But yeah, I actually kind of forgot about that till you mentioned it. 1 week away from NASCAR returning for the Cup Series, and we will have cars on track next Saturday. Saturday, August 10th will be our next live commentary stream. So we still have 5 more straight days of NASCAR 07 action before then.
Don't worry about watching him. He's feeling nice today.
23 to go. We might be less than 1,000 laps led away from Bobby Allison's record after today's race. Oh, yeah, actually, we'll easily be less because we'll lead over 400 laps for sure. It might be under 900 after today. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to lead a lot at California tomorrow. It's going to be a tough race to win, but we get to Bristol, we really got to capitalize there. There in New Hampshire, the 2 tracks have to capitalize and lead a ton of laps. The others might not lead a whole lot. And this was another one that we had to capitalize, and we did for this one. 20 laps to go at the line now.
Both sides clear.
18 laps remain. Again, plenty good on fuel, obviously, to make it to the end of the race. We pitted with about 102 laps to go. We've been able to go as far as 134 laps on a full tank of gas today. And as little as 128 during the course of those runs, so should be over 25 laps to the good. Even if we saw another caution before the end, Greg Biffle is now 2 laps down, so he'd only get one of his 2 laps back at once. We need 2 yellows for him to get back on the lead lap, and we're down to just 16 to go. If we get any cautions, I'm staying out of the pits. I don't even plan on pitting. So that last stop at lap 398 was the final one of the day. Got a tickle in my nose. At least it's at the end of the race. If I had a tickle in my nose at like lap 100 or 500, we were going to have some serious problems here. Ooh. Contact with Bush. Whoa! Joe Nemechek pitting out of nowhere. Wasn't expecting anybody else to pit the rest of the race. He was in that crash earlier, so he might have pitted during the caution, which is why he ran as long as he did. Started slowing down right in the middle of the back straightaway and almost ran into him. Why is that happening? That's 2 races in a row in the final dozen laps. I almost clobbered somebody from behind on the back straightaway. Luckily, the speeds are down way more here than at Dover, but luckily I still got the mental focus to be able to, well, get in here and stay focused and miss the potential incident. Paul Menard almost got hooked off this 161 car in front of us that last time by. 161 was pushing him like the first half of the corner. They left her corner panel of the 15. Menard kept it driving strong. 8 laps to go. It's going to be our most dominant win by way of margin of victory this season. Win this race by 2 laps. It's not going to be dominant like Phoenix where we went wire to wire there. Gonna lead over 400 laps today. But that's why it just goes to show how hard it is to lead every lap in a race. Even in a race we win by 2 full laps in the field, because of green flag pit stops, it's so hard to lead every lap. That's why it's impressive I was able to do it at Phoenix. In a cup race, especially where there are more pit stops. Five laps to go. Didn't see many DNFs in this race today. Obviously, only the 1 caution. Single car wreck from Joe Nemechek just after lap 330. Three laps to go right now. I've only seen A couple cars blowing engine in the race today, too. Probably only going to be like 2 or 3 DNFs, I feel. And with just the one caution, despite this race being 500 laps at Martinsville, I do believe it's going to get over in less than 3 hours. Sorensen and Earnhardt go one more lap down. Final lap of the race, though, for Mark Martin. A dominant win, leading over 400 laps at the paperclip. Mark Martin will win in Martinsville in the DirecTV 500, extending his points lead even more. Win number 17 on the season. And a 1-2 finish for Roush Fenway Racing as well. Greg Biffle ended up in second place. Let's go. We want dominance. I'm never going to have another season like this on the channel again. I can guarantee that. We've been nowhere close to this dominant of a season. I think the most I ever clinched a championship early was like 2 races early. So I got to take advantage of this and continue to just have utter dominance. 2 hours, 52 minutes, 24 seconds total time in this race. 91.53 mile per hour average race speed. Again, 2-lap margin of victory. 14 lead changes. Most of them during those green flag pit stops, of course. 1 caution in the race, which was just after lap 330 for Joe Nemechek. We led 438 laps, max points day. Our teammate Greg Biffle led 52 laps, finishing in second. Tony Stewart led no laps. He ends up finishing third. Jimmy Johnson fourth. Fifth for Elliott Sadler. Sixth for Matt Kenseth. Kevin Harvick in seventh. Ryan Newman eighth. Was that Kyle Busch ninth, I believe? Because Kurt was a few... Yeah, Kurt DNF. That's right. So Kyle Busch ninth. Casey Kane rounds out the top 10 in 10th. Yeah, so Biffle was 2 laps down. Tony Stewart 3 down. 3 down for Johnson in fourth. 4 laps down for Elliott Sadler in fifth. 4 down for Kenseth in sixth. 7th Harvick. 8th Ryan Newman. 5 laps down for Kyle Busch in 9th. And also 5 laps down for Casey Kane in 10th. Jamie McMurray, our other teammate, the only one that didn't finish in the top 10, ends up 13th. Also 5 laps down. As far as everybody that DNF'd in this race today, we saw Dale Jarrett blow an engine early. That's right. I forgot about that. That was really early in the race. We saw Kurt Busch blow a motor. Apparently, Jeff Gordon blew an engine. He was top 5 in points coming in, so that might hurt his chances of getting a top 5 finish in the standings. M. Sparks DNF'd with an engine failure. And that was it. Just 4 DNFs. A couple more than I thought we were going to have. I didn't see Gordon or Sparks blow up. Dave Blaney. 39, 15 laps down on pace. Yikes. I got to drive as him next season. We're probably going to take like the worst driver in this game. Oh man, one of them at least. And we're not going to have any teammates either, so that makes it even harder for team orders and all that stuff to try and win a championship. 3rd most wins in a single season. 18 Tim Flock, 27 Richard Petty. I didn't realize Tim Flock had 18, so yeah, we got a good chance to end up getting to 2nd. We'll finish this up. Let's get the laps led. I'll pull up my Google Docs page real quick. And see where this puts us on the season. Mark Martin. First laps led. So 438 laps led was obviously the most laps I've led in a single race this season. The most before that was actually at Dover yesterday, which I led 339 laps. So back-to-back races, I've led the most laps in a race so far this season. The only one that could possibly top this is potentially Bristol. And again, that is because it is a 500 lap race. The rest obviously don't have more than 400. So Yeah, 250 laps at California, 90 at Watkins Glen. Bristol has 500, 325 at Atlanta, 300 at New Hampshire. Sonoma's only 110 and 160 at Daytona. So we'll see. With 438 laps led, that now gets us to 340. Let me rephrase that. 3,444 laps led on the season. And the record is 4,343. So we're 903 laps away from the record, if I do my math correctly there. So we need 903 laps led in the last 7 races to break the record. Like I said, Bristol's going to be, that's going to be the one that we're going to have to lead over 400 there, and then that still gives us like 500 to go. It's going to be tight. It's going to be really close. We have to continue to just like dominate. We can't just win. Lead the most laps. Like, we have to dominate races, and I don't think I'm going to be able to lead many at California. I finished 23rd there earlier this season. And I only led 8 laps in the first California race earlier this year, so this is probably my worst track on the season that we're going to a second time. And Watkins Glen's only 90 laps. Yeah, I'm going to have to, if I lead over 400 at Bristol, let's just say like 250 at New Hampshire. From where I'm at right now, that would get me to, I feel like between those 2 races together, I can lead about 700 laps. So I'd have to lead about 200 to 250 laps in the other 5 races combined. I think it's doable. Honestly, once I clinch this championship up, I'm probably just going to do pit strategy just to lead a bunch of laps and not really care about where I finish in the races, just so we can try to get that record. Because I'm not going to have a chance to try to break this again. There's no chance. Round of 16 next season. Well, there will be a playoff format technically next season, but it would be the chase, the original chase format. The 10 drivers, 10 races, all points based. But yeah, there will be a chase on the next season with Dave Blaney. There's no chance in hell I'm winning an outright championship with him. So we'll try to get a top 10 points finish through the first 26 and try to go for broke in the last 10. But we'll worry about that when we get there. Yeah, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more NASCAR content if you haven't yet. Thanks for tuning in here through this weekend's coverage of NASCAR 07. 6 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow night, California Speedway will be our next race. Have a good one, everybody. Enjoy your Sunday.